Hey, gumbo people. Hey, Moki, we're doing a video here. All right, there's a good case in the news that I was reading, which is interesting to me. It may not be interesting to you, but it goes into police powers, government intrusion, etc. So we're going to talk about a search warrant, consent. Then we're going to talk about the Fifth Amendment, self-incrimination. Does self-incrimination only mean verbal only? A fingerprint for biometric, is that verbal or non? What about your passcode for your phone? Can the government get that? Yes or no? Can they get your house key? Can they just order you to give you your house key so they go in and search your house? And some of the ways that the reasons they're going to try and justify this is through exigency, loss of evidence, ongoing criminal investigation, protection of the public. Remember, I always say public safety, number one clue that the government's up to no good. And then we'll go into good faith, and we could have got it. We could have found it anyway. So let's talk a little bit about some of these topics here, and I'll go over kind of what the article is. So some judge just ruled, man, if I just grabbed the wrong stinking cup. Some judge just ruled that a person who was convicted or arrested for a crime, 45 minutes after she was arrested, the judge issued a warrant compelling her to put her thumbprint or her fingerprint on her phone and unlock her phone for the police. So, is that legal? You know, and the thing about legal, remember, it's always on a balancing act. It's always changing. One court can say it is, another can say it's not. You know, we can never get the Supreme Court to agree 9-1 or 9-0 that it's right. You've always got a 5-4 split decision. So even the supposedly top judges, which they're not, they're just political appointees that got favors to be appointed up there. It doesn't make them brilliant. I mean, every once in a while we get somebody brilliant like Scalia, but normally they're just pawns who have favors coming. So the Supreme Court isn't this bow-down court that, oh my God, they're gods and they're the final rule. You know, most of them are freaking eating grits and can't wipe their own butt anyway. But anyway, because they're so freaking old. I digress. So can a judge or government say, put your fingerprint on here and unlock your phone? This judge did just that. Will it be appealed? I'm on the fence on this one. I think it probably should be, and I think it might be, but I'm not real sure. I think it's, you know, it's the lay of the land on whether or not it works or not. So let me try to. So she gets arrested. She has her phone. Her phone has information in it. The cops want it, and they say, look, she's committed a crime. She's used this phone to commission a crime. Therefore, the phone and the information on it are fruits of the crime. So we want to get that to prove the crime against her. And can she say, no, I don't want to give you that? I think she should be able to say no. And the reason I say that is because the Fifth Amendment says we have the right to not self-incriminate ourselves. We have the right and a protection that government can't force us to say we did something. And the reason behind that is kind of like with torture. If you torture a guy enough, he's going to admit to anything. Which is why the argument on torture is the information you get really relevant? Now, some people that do it the right way can say, well, we have ways to prove it, and if he gives us this, and we verified 2 points out of 3 things that he gave us, then we can assume that the third thing he gave us is probably true. So we don't take on face value when we torture, coerce, or kind of beat in a confession on somebody, but we have other validating factors that can prove that information, whether it's valid or not. So is that good or bad? Well, again, yin and yang. All good there's bad, all bad there's good. Sometimes it is good, sometimes you got to take extreme measures for extreme situations. Okay, I'm not one of those, you know, nothing's allowed and we have to have rules when we're fighting people who are trying to kill us that have no rules. Okay, that's not what I call a fair fight. If you have no rules, we have no rules. If you want to engage us with no rules, then we're going to engage you back with no rules. We're not going to be the stinking stupid British Army that gets in line and walks up to people in a straight line going bang while they shoot us down without using cover, concealment, tactics, and movement. We're just not going to have everybody die like that. It's stupid. It's an old, ignorant kind of way of thinking. Gentlemen and all that other crap. So, Fifth Amendment, self-incrimination. If you can be forced to give your phone and open it, and there's information on there that can be used against you, is that the same thing, and that's where the problem's going to lie in court, is that the same thing as the government saying, I don't care about your rights, we know you did it, you better tell us you did it, you're going to jail, beating me down for 6 hours, cops yelling at me, not giving me water, not letting me go to the bathroom, and I finally go, yeah man, I did it, can I go pee now? And then you get, okay, he confessed, he said he did it. So, is that the same thing? Man, that's kind of iffy. I mean, it's almost like a house. I don't have to let you in my house, but if you go get a search warrant, you can come get my house. Can you get a judge to give you a warrant and say, I'll order this person to give you his house key and let you look around his house? That's a search warrant, except you don't have to give me the house key. I'm going to kick the door, I don't have to ask you, and I'm coming in. I got to notify you, I got a search warrant. If you don't let me in, I'm kicking the door and we're coming in. So is that not the same thing as saying, giving him the house key? I'm ordering you to give him the house key? I mean, what the hell? To me, it's the same thing. If the government can kick your door and go search your house, then it's the same thing as them issuing a warrant saying, give them the key to your house and let them in. So the problem is, they can't kick an iPhone in. I don't have an iPhone there. They can't kick the door in on an iPhone. Technology has got it to where if you kick the door in, you'll destroy. It's kind of like if you had a bomb in your house and you go, look, you can go in my house, but when you go in there, there's triggers and the whole thing's going to burn down, so go ahead. Or I got everything wired and it's all going to be burnt and blown up. So go ahead, search it. So, I mean, and then the government will be like, all right, well, we're going to order you to tell us how to defeat those booby traps to go search. I mean, is the order lawful? Is the court order lawful? I think the court's going to rule it is lawful, but does it violate the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination? This is a touchy thing. I think they're going to try and connect the iPhone to the house and say, if we can go search your house without your permission, and you put a bomb in your house, we could order you to deactivate that bomb. And if you don't, and we lose that information, then that can be used against you. Kind of like, which I don't think they should be able to do, but kind of like if you leave court or you run, flight can be used, has what's called consciousness of guilt, and can be used against you, especially if you leave in the middle of a trial. If you're sitting in trial 2 days, it's going bad, and on the third day of trial you don't show up, and they continue to trial because you have a right to be there, they're not going to say, you know what, unless you're in an hospital accident, you can't make it, but if you just disappear and you go on a run, they're not going to stop the trial because you're not there, even though you have a right to be there during your trial. You chose not to by leaving. So, does the Fifth Amendment only protect you for verbal self-incrimination? If the courts rule that, man, that's a bad thing. Because that means pretty much you better not be writing anything down, you better not be communicating with anybody other than verbal, and even verbal isn't protected if they get a warrant to listen to your phone. Now, if I was arguing this for the government, saying why I needed this, those are the things I would bring up. Look, I can get a warrant to listen to this conversation so his phone isn't protected. He doesn't have to self-incriminate. I can get a warrant to listen to his phone calls, and those are verbal. I can get a warrant for his texts on his phone, and those are written. I can get a warrant for his emails, and those are sent through computer space, or what do they call that? Cyberspace, and I can still get that information and get a warrant for that. So I can get all of that, and now you're going to tell me, the court, that I can't get them to put their finger on a phone to get some information? When it comes down to reasonableness, who's ever arguing this, it's going to be kind of easy for the government to tip this in their way. Now, me being on the side of less government intrusion, less power, they got too damn much power, I'm always going to be on the other side saying, you know what, the courts need to err on the side of safety and say, you know what, if your whole case depends on this phone and that's all you got nothing else, then you know what, maybe we shouldn't even be wasting time charging this guy. And again, there's going to be these emotional cases where kids are killed, or there's a terrorist attack and somebody shot up, or, we got a public safety because they're going to drop a nuclear bomb, so we need everybody's phone records in this area because we think somebody's talking about a nuke in this area, so we want everybody's phone records. And when we find all these phone records, oh, well, this guy did this, and we got this guy doing this, and we got that. We weren't really looking for that, but now that we have it, what the hell? Let's go convict all these people. That's how government gets out. That's why government's supposed to be restricted. So, when you get into fingerprint, biometric, nonverbal, the court ordering things, you know, it goes back to DNA. I can go and get the court, I can get a court order to get your DNA. If I have enough probable cause to convince the judge that I connect you with the crime and you're the guy and we're pretty sure this guy and this is just one more step, then I can get a court order to get a DNA from you. Paternity test, I can get a court order to give you to prove that you are the father or you're not. So I can go get your DNA through a court order. However, I need a court order. I can't compel you to do that without a court order. So if you come up and I go, hey man, can I get your DNA? And you go, no, what do I need? I need a search warrant, I need consent, or I need exigency. Remember, government can only get things from you those three ways. Through a search warrant, which is a court order, through consent, where you say it's okay, or through an exigency, which comes down ongoing crime, protection of public, you know, exigency, loss of evidence. If I don't get it right now, I'm going to lose evidence. So, without these three things, I can get pretty much anything. So are we going to draw the line now and say, you know what? You can't get a fingerprint. Now, I can't even force you to give me your fingerprints unless I get a search warrant, consent, or exigency. So, I mean, the foundation is pretty clear. Government can't compel you to do anything without one of these three. But at what point does this one, the search warrant, the court order, the order by the court ordering you to do something, at what point does the court does not have permission to do that? Can they order me to give evidence against my wife or spouse? No. That's protected. Can't do that. You can't get a court order compelling me to testify. That's a protected class. You can't get a court order to get my attorney to get you to tell me what I told him. You can't use my attorney against me. I have attorney-client privilege. That's probably the only most sick one. We used to have doctor-patient privilege. We couldn't get a court order to get a doctor to go against his patient. It was and then slowly but surely they started getting in ways through the back door. Somebody's going to die. Well, this person has AIDS. We think he's infecting. We think this. We think we have a rapist and he has the same blood disorder and we need to get into his records and he took medicine and we found this medicine and, if we can get his court orders and what prescription you gave him and when he took. You know what? Used to be, the answer was flat out no. Now, shit, it ain't nothing. Doctor-patient privilege is almost nil to none, especially now that the dumbass liberals voted to give health care to the government. Now the government owns your health care. You have no secrets. Nothing you tell your doctor is protected. I can go pretty much anywhere now as a cop and get anything I want from you with pretty much probably a subpoena. I don't even need a search warrant. I can get something as low as subpoena. Subpoena comes in under the search warrant kind of government ordering you to supply something. Most agencies or most people that give out stuff, they're protected. If they give it out, they can't be sued. If they give it out under a subpoena or search warrant, they can't be sued. So, again, the government's going to protect things that help them. They're not going to protect things that doesn't help them. So, we went through all these things. Inevitable discovery. I think that's going to be their biggest fallback if this case gets overturned. Because remember, if I search something illegally and I didn't have the right to do it as the government, the court, is supposed to say, you can't use that. You lose that. If I give a confession because they beat me, and that's a coerced confession, and I ask for an attorney, and they violated my Fifth Amendment, the court, the judge, the government is supposed to say, you can't use that. You violated his Fifth Amendment. We're going to suppress that. You can't have it. And anything that led you to fruits of the poisonous tree, you just planted a bad seed by getting that confession. If I told you where the bodies are found and you went and found the bodies, you can't use the bodies and you can't use that either. Because my coerced confession led you to that. And therefore, since you planted a bad seed, any fruits from that tree are thrown out. Fruits of the poisonous tree. So, can the government compel me to do that against my spouse? No, not yet. Can they get my lawyer to testify against me? No, not yet. Can they go to my doctor and violate Absolutely. Can they go to a priest? That's kind of iffy. I've seen a few cases where the priest kind of got involved, but most of the time the church tells the government, pack sand, we're protected. You can't, you know, my client can come in and tell me he killed 20 kids and buried them all, and I don't have to tell you. Hell, I don't even have to tell you if I'm a priest and I violated 20 kids and molested them. But that's a different story. So the church is protected, lawyers are protected, and spouses are kind of protected, but the way they're going after marriage and man, woman can marry your dog or have sex with, bring your dog into a male bathroom if it's a female sheep. Now that they're diluting all this shit, ain't no damn telling what's going to be in the future as far as marriage and privilege and who counts as a spouse and who doesn't. So, and let's see, public safety. I think that covers it. So, is this going to be overturned or not? I don't know. I think it's a very interesting case, and I think it's going to show where government is going, which is where it's been going, which is where it seems to be wanting to go just as fast as it can get there, is screw the Constitution, screw the protections, screw the Fifth Amendment. We don't care about that. We don't care about the Second Amendment. We don't care if it says shall not be infringed. We're going to infringe on it every chance we can. You can't bring it in this building. You can't carry it over there. You got to get a permit to have one. You got to get a permit to buy one. You got to go to a background to get one. You got to show ID. We can violate and shit all over the Second Amendment. You know what? It's only a matter of time until they violate and shit all over the Fifth. And the First Amendment, same thing. They're already violating that. You know, white people can't say nigger because that's a racial slur, and you're going to be charged with a hate crime, and you can't, you can't holler fire and thing. Oh, well, that's public safety, Rick. That's okay. The problem is when you start letting these little small things. That's how government gets their fingers in, and then once they do, they dig this big hole and they tear it down. So, I mean, I'm just if the amendments are there for our protection, leave them the hell alone. Freedom of speech, leave it alone. I don't want to hear that shit. You know, Obama saying that thing, you can't protest within so many feet of the president now. That's BS. Now you can't, now you've got to get a permit to protest. You don't even have a free speech right anymore. You got to get a permit to protest. You got to get permission of the government to protest the government. So when you outlaw peaceful protests, you pretty much mandate violent resistance. That's just the way it is. It's happened over history. It's happening all the time. It continues to repeat itself, and it's going to repeat itself again. When you outlaw public protests, peaceful protests, you mandate violent resistance. When the people have no other option to go against the government, their last and only option usually is violent resistance, revolution, whatever it is. That's where it goes. That's where it's probably going to go. That's where it needs to go. That's where it should have went a long time ago, because the government is only getting stronger and more powerful and growing. It's almost like we were at war with somebody, and we know they're gathering masses, and we know it's going to take them 2 years to get the boats and the ships and the grenades and the bombs, and it's going to take them 3 years to build a nuke, and we sit back and go, yeah, well, you know what, they're not attacking us yet. Just go ahead and let them build their forces. Because that's what the government's been doing for decades now. And, you know, this will be another little step in the right direction to give government more power. But it's an interesting case. I'll be interested to see how they you know, how the courts rule and where they come down on that. Can you be compelled to give your fingerprint to unlock your phone? Because the evidence will be destroyed if they try to get in without your fingerprint. And is a fingerprint the same as self-incrimination? Is the passcode the same? Because they've ruled that they can force you to give the passcode, but the fingerprint is different than a passcode, because a passcode they might be able to find. So they're really on a lot of different ground here, and it's not really consistent. So it'll be interesting how this turns out. It's interesting to me anyway. Some of you may be, what the hell, I don't give a shit. All right, we'll end that there. Smokey! See, Smokey didn't give a crap. He turned around and turned his back on me. Branded. That movie where they turn the back on the guy when he walks out. We'll end that there.